Completing the square simply means create a perfect square trinomial. If you missed the previous video on how to identify a perfect square trinomial, you might want to click back to that one. I'll drop a link down in the description for you, but that will probably be helpful to you going forward. So first of all, why would you even want to create a perfect square trinomial? Well, because it's very easy to factor. A perfect square trinomial factors into a binomial squared every single time. And as we'll see in the future, this is a component of the equation of a circle. So if you can get something into this form, you can easily factor it into this. This is also another way to solve equations, which we'll look at in the next video. For this one, we're just going to learn how to make a perfect square trinomial and then factor it into that binomial. And just to look at how easy it is to factor something that is a perfect square trinomial, we would have already identified that this was one. All you have to do is follow your formula. Now this fits the top formula because I have two plus signs. What this part means right here is this a refers to the square root of this a squared. So what's the square root of this? 2x. Plus this b refers to the square root of this b squared. The square root of this is 5, and all squared. That's the benefit of being able to create a perfect square trinomial. It factors very easily. Now, when you try to create one, you'll either be missing this term or this one. Which one you're missing determines how you're going to complete that square. So let's take a look at this example. I'm missing the middle term. I have the first and third. According to our formula, our middle term has to be equal to 2 times the square root of the first times the square root of the last. So that makes it fairly simple. I would just multiply 2 times. The square root of this term is just x because there's no coefficient. The square root of this term is 6. 2 times 6 is 12x. This is now a perfect square trinomial, and I could factor it as x plus 6 squared. Square root of the first, square root of the last, all squared. Now let's look at one that's missing this last term. This is a little bit trickier because this term has to be a perfect square, and I had to have already used it to create the middle term. The middle term was equal to 2 times the square root of this, which is just x, and the square root of that, which I don't know. So I have to kind of work backwards. Now, so you don't have to keep working backwards every time. There is a little formula that you can memorize, and it makes this so much easier. And the formula is to take b, which is the coefficient of this linear term, divide it by 2 times the coefficient of this, and then square it all. Okay? So let's just use this formula. I'm going to take 10 over 2 times, the coefficient of this is just 1, so I don't have to worry about anything there. I'll put the 1. And square it all. Now, 10 divided by 2 is 5 squared, which would give me a term of 25. And then writing this in factored form is just going to be x plus 5 squared. Once you get it into this format, the factoring is the easy part. So keep that in mind. Don't struggle to factor once you've gone through all the hassle of completing the square. Let's look at one more example of finding the last term. So now we have 9x squared plus 30x, and we want to find the term that will go right here to create this perfect square trinomial. Let's pull our formula out. The formula says b over 2a squared. You just need to memorize that. Alright, what is our b? b is the coefficient of your x term, your linear term. So we're going to have 30 over 2 times the square root of this, which is 3. And then we'll square the whole thing. What's 2 times 3? 6. So we've got 30 over 6 squared. 30 divided by 6 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Now, this is a perfect square trinomial, so if you need to write it in factored form, it's going to be the square root of this, 3x, plus the square root of that, all squared. Now in the next video, I'm going to show you how to solve an equation by completing the square. It's a little bit more complicated than this, but this is the basis of it. So I'll see you in the next video.